Good evening and welcome to News on NTA International. We are streaming live on Visions TV 247 and other social media platforms on your screen. I am Ogochkuka Ona and my sign language interpreter is Taiwo Ozoma. And now, a quick look at headlines. Federal government to increase surveillance in nation's border communities moves to protect lives of residents and tackle insecurity. Federal High Court sitting in Ilorin grants immediate past Governor of Kwara State, Abdul Fattah Ahmed, bail over allegations of misappropriation of funds. And Senegal's Macky Sall vows to leave office on April 2 when his tenure comes to an end. Says consultations to elect his successor begin next week. The federal government will increase surveillance in the nation's border communities to protect the lives of residents and the security situation in the country. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this during a meeting with a delegation from the Border Communities Development Agency. He stressed the importance of border communities in national security and pledged continued support for their developmental needs. The Vice President acknowledged the need for residents to feel a sense of belonging as Nigerians and assured them of the government's commitment to improving access to health care and other essential services, urging the agency to develop a roadmap to increase government funding. Executive Secretary of the agency, Junaid Abdullahi, appealed for more funding to the agency to fulfill its mandate. The United Nations report indicates that both sides in Sudan's civil war have committed abuses that may amount to war crimes. The crimes, including indiscriminate attacks on civilian sites, hospitals, markets, and camps for displaced persons, the UN Human Rights Office says efforts have so far failed to end the 10-month-old conflict that pits Sudan's regular armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces. Thousands of people have been killed and over 6 million forced to flee their homes, making it the country with the largest displaced population in the world. The United Nations report covers the April-December period and is based on interviews with over 300 victims and witnesses, as well as footage of satellite imageries. It says that sometimes those fleeing for their lives or displaced by the violence became victims of explosive weapons attacks. And now Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema has called on the mining industry to contribute more to the growth of the country. Speaking when he opened the 2024 Zambia Economic Growth Forum in Lusaka, President Hichilema said the country will not be the same if all viable mines contribute to the treasury. He said even small-scale miners must be regulated so that they operate legally and create jobs.
In an effort to resuscitate the economy, government is engaging various stakeholders to sell its economic plans. At the 2024 Zambia Economic Growth Forum, the country's economic situation has been topical. President Hakainde Hichilema has used the forum to inform the country about the performance of the mining sector.
Chingola, Kalulushi, Mufrila are not looking better despite producing so much copper over the years, over 100 years. This government wants to turn things around so that the communities can see value into their kitchen, into their sitting room as producers of copper. So is Northwestern Province. So is almost now in our country, all the provinces of our country are able to engage in some mining. But what we want is legal mining, 1, 2, mine not only to extract, but to process, to beneficiate, to value add. That again triggers our economic expansion agenda.
President Hichilema also spelled out some of the economic measures government is implementing to deal with the prevailing situation.
Macro stability is very important. We need stable, first we need inflation which is basically acceptable. We had set ourselves our targets, we know that. And I think there's a bit of some slippage there Last year, by and large, we're below single digit, just around 9. Now we're creeping over to 13%. We want to keep this under control. We want to keep interest rates attractive to business.
Finance and National Planning Minister Tumbeko Msokotwani explained how confidence has been brought back in the economy.
Those mining sectors that said they were going to leave, they've stayed and putting more money in our economy. And of course, others have been taking a look, making announcements of new findings, pledging more money to be put. The mining manufacturing sector, who knew that one day Zambia would be exporting fertilizers? But we're exporting fertilizers today, ceramic tiles, and many other items.
The International Monetary Fund and the International Growth Center helped organize the 2024 Economic Growth Forum.
The potential yield is something in the region of 12 tons per hectare, and current actual yields are only 2 tons. There's a huge potential for increasing production, increasing yields in Zambia, with benefits, of course, not only to the farmers themselves, but to the economy more broadly and to exports and so forth.
A plethora of reforms has been undertaken, including those aimed at improving transparency and tackling corruption in order to create a business-friendly environment. Now, going forward, the current uncertain global economic environment, which is characterized by fragmentation of trade and investment and geopolitical tensions, underscores the importance of agile and adaptive policy making.
We do know that if a farmer is taken care of properly, given proper seed, given proper fertilizer, and is able to follow basic agroeconomical practices, there's no way that he can get less than 5 tons per hectare.
Various panel discussions have been held at the 2-day forum to analyze the Zambian economy and offer some solutions.
Now, Senegal's president announced Thursday that his mandate as president will end on April 2nd, and consultations for the organization of the election of his successor will start next week. Speaking in a media interview in the capital, Dakar, Macky Sall said the date for holding the presidential elections he had postponed remains open, but he plans to leave his position as president after the end of his term. He said, and I quote, "As far as the date is concerned, we will see from the outcome of consultations, which are expected to begin on Monday, February 26th, and probably end on Tuesday if a consensus is not reached. Everything will be referred to the Constitutional Council." End of quote. Sall announced the indefinite suspension of the February 25th presidential election on February 3, citing a dispute over the candidates' lists and alleged corruption of constitutional judges.
Macky Sall said the date for holding the presidential elections he had postponed remains open, but he plans to leave office after the end of his term. He explained that as far as the date is concerned, it will be determined by the outcome of consultations, which are expected to begin on Monday, February 26, and probably end on Tuesday. President Sall says if a consensus is not reached, everything will be referred to the Constitutional Council. Sall on February 3 announced the indefinite suspension of the February 25 presidential election, citing a dispute over the candidate list and alleged corruption of constitutional judges. The National Assembly had passed a bill postponing the vote until December 15 as security forces stormed the building and removed some opposition lawmakers. However, the Senegalese Constitutional Council declared the law postponing the country's presidential votes to December unconstitutional and annulled his decree to delay the poll. The election delay in the West African country has triggered violent protest, during which 3 people were killed and dozens of others arrested. Reports say the protesters accused President Sall of using irritational reasons to postpone the election just hours before campaigns began. Francis Sudocho, NTA News.
China says Japan's disposal of nuclear-contaminated wastewater into the surrounding ocean poses a risk not only for human health but also for the global marine environment and international public interests. Spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Mao Ning, said Beijing and other nations have taken completely legitimate, reasonable and necessary measures for food safety and public health after the release of wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant last year. Japan began releasing treated radioactive wastewater from the plant last August, triggering a backlash from China and opposition parties in South Korea, as well as the Solomon Islands. Beijing had suspended all seafood imports from Japan for 6 months after Tokyo went ahead with plans to release the water, citing concerns about radioactive contamination. The plant has more than 1 million tons of treated wastewater to release in a 30-year process. The Fukushima plant was forced to shut down after facing the largest nuclear accident since 1986 in Chernobyl, following an earthquake and tsunami in 2011. And now, former U.S. President Donald Trump has asked a federal judge to dismiss criminal charges against him of illegally holding onto sensitive U.S. national security documents after leaving office. Francis Udojo reports that Trump pleaded not guilty to a 40-count indictment in a Florida federal court.
Prosecutors working with U.S. Special Counsel Jack Smith accused Trump of keeping documents at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida that included information about the U.S. nuclear program and potential domestic vulnerabilities.
This case is brought consistent with that commitment.
Trump sought to conceal boxes containing classified papers after receiving a grand jury subpoena demanding their return, according to the indictment. He was charged alongside his personal aide, Walt Nauta, and Mar-a-Lago property manager, Carlos de Oliveira, who also moved on Thursday to dismiss the charges. However, both of them pleaded not guilty.
This is a political witch hunt, the likes of which nobody's ever seen before.
A trial is scheduled to begin in May, but Trump has sought a delay. U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon has scheduled a March 1 hearing on the timing of the trial. Donald Trump is being accused of illegally retaining classified documents at his Florida resort after leaving office in 2021 and obstructing U.S. government's attempts to retrieve them. Francis Sudocho, NTA News.
The United Nations Commission for Human Rights is appealing to ECOWAS member states to promote and protect the human rights of both regular and irregular migrants in their countries. The regional representative of the West Africa Regional Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights based in Dakar, Senegal, Robert Kocheni, made the appeal at the end of the Mission Media Dialogue in Abuja. Chukunonso Mabweze reports.
Under international human rights law, all migrants, regardless of their status, are entitled to the same international human rights like everyone else. The regional representative of the West Africa Regional Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, based in Dakar, Senegal, Robert Kochani, at a media parley at the United Nations House in Abuja, reiterated the need for ECOWAS member states to respect, protect, and fulfill migrants' human rights. He urged the media to hold accountable the actions of those who come in contact with migrants in Nigeria.
Migration can be a pleasant adventure. It can also be a nightmare for some who even lose their lives. So sensitization around migration, sensitization or awareness raising around the need to uphold human rights in all the stages of migration is important. And we are encouraging states to just implement policies that they have put in place, which command that migrants are treated with a human rights-based approach.
From last year, we were able to build the capacity of the staff of the National Human Rights Commission to ensure that they're able to integrate a human rights-based approach into the work that they do to respond to these issues of the rights of migrants. We've also built the capacity of various civil society organizations, even coming from different states, so not only here in Abuja.
I want to continue to also welcome the cooperation and the collaboration from our key government partners, and we will continue going forward to build on this.
Kochani's visit to Nigeria is to strengthen collaboration as well as enhance the promotion and protection of human rights of migrants in Nigeria and West Africa. Chukuno Songwabweze, NTA News.
We'll be taking a short break now. The news continues in a moment. Please stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. And back home, Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has assured Nigerians that the President and his team are and will remain committed on the task of bringing immediate relief and enduring prosperity to all Nigerians. In a statement, the minister sought the patience and understanding of Nigerians as they push through difficult times that will lead into a season of abundant benefits and truly renewed hope. Mohammed Idris said it is heartwarming that Nigerians are starting to see the results of government efforts as the Naira is stabilizing and the foreign exchange market is seeing a surge of inflows. To this effect, he added that regulatory and enforcement agencies of government have been working round the clock in the past few days, joining forces to address these efforts at undermining government reforms. He assured Nigerians that the government will continue to take further steps to stabilize the Naira and safeguard the economy. And now talking politics, Senator Monday Okpewolo has been declared winner of the All Progressives Congress governorship primaries in Edo State. The chairman of the election committee and governor of Cross River State, Basi Otu, announced the final results of the exercise in Benin after collating results from 18 local government areas. Senator Okpewolo polled 12,433 votes to defeat 11 other aspirants who contested the primary election. Out of the 18 local government areas in Edo State, Okpewolo won 14, while Dennis Idahosa won 3 and Afolabi won 1. The Federal Ministry of Environment says the government has committed the sum of 60 billion naira for the execution of green bond projects from 2024 to 2027. Minister of State for Environment, Ishaq Salako, at an inter-ministerial meeting on climate change, says the aim is to reduce significantly Nigeria's low emission target of 2060. Charles Afa reports.
Nigeria's Green Bond Program, a capital market-related initiative aimed at sourcing finances from local and international investors to fund green projects targeted at addressing pollution and biodiversity loss. These green projects include tree planting, energy efficiency, sustainable agriculture, fishery, forestry, as well as protection of aquatic and terrestrial ecosystem. Nigeria was the first country in Africa and the fourth globally to issue a sovereign green bond, the first sovereign green bond certified using the climate bond standard. It has received 2 issuances, with the last being in 2019, almost 5 years today. There are hopes that the third issuance will address an array of current and emerging climate impacts, and this defines the meeting of the Interministerial Committee on Climate Change from the Ministries of Environment, Finance, Budget and Planning, Agriculture, Water Resources, Petroleum, Power and Industry to strategize on implementation strategy that will address its peculiar climate issues.
We have agreed to an incremental year-to-year issuance from 2024 to 2027, starting with a larger size issuance of 60 billion in 2024.
A critical focus of this budget and the medium-term expenditure framework is Nigeria's commitment to greener future.
Nigeria's greenhouse gas emissions are predicted to increase to around 900 million tons per year by 2030, but committed to reducing that total by 20% on its own by 2030. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
And now talking security, troops of the Nigerian Armed Forces have arrested 11 violent extremists in Abuja Municipal Area Council of the FCT. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, stated this while providing an update on the ongoing armed forces operations in the last 7 days in various theaters of operations across the country. Details show that troops eliminated 266 terrorists and arrested 244 of them. 83 crude oil smugglers were apprehended and 122 kidnapped persons were rescued. Similarly, several air interdictions were carried out on terrorist hideouts and illegal mining sites discovered and destroyed.
The violent extremists with drugs in Gwagwalada Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory. Then troops also arrested suspected violent extremists in Abuja Municipal Area Council of the FCT.
Major General Buba stressed that the quest to win the ongoing war against criminality is a collective responsibility.
The time is right for patriotic and well-meaning citizens to contribute alternative ideas on ways to make the difference in turning the situation in the country around. Collaborative effort is essential at this time.
He enjoined Nigerians to support the military and other security agencies to enhance a proactive operation. Now, the Federal Fire Service is striving to upgrade firefighting operations in Nigeria in line with international best practices. Controller General, Federal Fire Service, Jaji Abdulganiyu, spoke on improving service delivery of the agency at the Senior Management Career Development Training. Let's now join Joseph Hudson for details.
Marketplaces, homes, offices, and even internally displaced persons camps have all had a touch of fire outbreaks in Nigeria. At many of the incidents, the Federal Fire Service had its hands full. With evolving environmental challenges, the firefighting agency wants to step up its operations to cope with emerging cases.
We talked about the robust use of data, health, wellness threats, opportunities for partnerships, sustainability challenges, and of course, we talked about technology advancements.
Controller General, Federal Fire Service, Judge Abdul Ganiu, is hopeful that the bill for the enactment of the Fire Service Act, currently on the floor of the National Assembly, will help the service generate resources that will enable it improve its capacity.
The fire service will be the one that will license any organization that forms firewall, and that firewall will be deployed to the factories and they will be monitored. Training that will be coming up here will be of international training.
About 300 senior management staff of the service are involved in this capacity training. In Abuja, Joseph Utsen, NTA News.
And now shifting our attention to the judiciary, a federal high court sitting in Ilorin has admitted the immediate past governor of Kwara State, Abdul Fattah Ahmed, to a bail of 50 million naira following his arraignment by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The anti-graft agency is prosecuting the former governor alongside his commissioner of finance over alleged misappropriation of funds. Abdul Hafiz Alias report is here presented.
Former Governor Abdul Fattah Ahmed, who has been in EFCC custody since Monday, was brought to the court on Friday amidst tight security. Friends and supporters of the governor were denied access to the court premises, while journalists were also barred from covering the proceedings. The former governor is facing a 12-count charge bordering on alleged mismanagement of public funds running into billions of naira while in office. He pleaded not guilty to the charges upon arraignment, despite the objection from the prosecution counsel Rotimi Jacob. Justice Evelyn Ayandike admitted Ahmed to a bail of 50 million naira with 2 sureties with a landed property within the jurisdiction of the court, among other conditions.
Application for bail was made by his counsel orally. So although we oppose that it should be in writing, his lordship was of the opinion that she has the discretion to allow them to move oral application, and was so moved.
The court, in its wisdom, after considering the arguments on both sides, decided to exercise its discretion in favor of the defendant, especially in view of the antecedent of the first defendant, who had always voluntarily responded to EFCC invitation. The court also made another granting accelerated hearing of the case.
The case has been adjourned until the 29th and 30th of April for the commencement of trial.
And now a quick look at the weather prospect for Saturday in Nigeria and some parts of the globe. And that ends the news on NTA International. Thanks for your time. I am Ogochukwu Kaona, and my sign language interpreter has been Taiwo Ozoma.